If you ever wondered, can I get away with stealing this on a Royal Caribbean cruise ship? I would highly advise against it. In this video, I'm going to tell you the story of how my GoPro was stolen at Thrill Water Park in Coco Cay. It's going to get juicy because this story has a lot of twists, turns. It's very suspenseful. If you like thrillers and suspense movies, you're going to love this story. Let's go. Warning. This video will be very complex. There's a lot of context within the story that needs to be told for it to make sense. So if you don't like long videos, adios. But if you do, which I would recommend, you just listen to this while you're driving, eating, cooking, whatever, working out. And it's a crazy story. You'll see when I get into it. Currently, I'm on Wonder of the Seas doing a 4-night sailing out of Miami. Now, on day 2, we were going to Coco Cay. I've been to Coco Cay multiple times before, but I've never been to Thrill Water Park. So I was really excited to shoot some content. Now, of course, I go to water parks, and that's one of the things I like to do other than the vlogs. Now, the one mistake I made was on one of the rides, I forgot to stop recording the GoPro, and it recorded for 27 minutes straight, which burned over 50% of the battery. And at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to start shooting, getting the rest of the content before my battery dies. And I do this, and I go to one of the rides, and it's 3% left. I go down the ride. By the time I get down to the end of the ride, literally I get out of the water, and I hear beep, 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 and my GoPro turns off. Battery's dead. So at this point, I go to the locker, and I was like, hey, since I can't record, let me just put my GoPro away. So put the GoPro away, and I get back out and I do some stuff. Then I come back, and this is when I decide to leave Thrill Water Park. So if you've ever been to Thrill Water Park, the lockers are quite small, but I'm pulling all my stuff out, and everything wasn't in the bag. It was kind of like loosely placed in the locker. So the GoPro that I was using to shoot, which I use a GoPro, if you guys didn't know that, to do all of my vlogs and videos, I use 2 GoPros. So I sat the one that I was using for the water park, which it has a mouthpiece attachment to it, because I was putting it in my mouth, and that's how I got all of the angles and the shots and stuff like this. So I sat it on top of the lockers. The lockers slant in Coco Cay. Now I'm grabbing everything, I'm putting everything in bags, I'm putting shoes on, blah, blah, blah. And apparently I left my GoPro on top of the locker. Now at this point, I left Thrill Water Park with my other GoPro, backpack, everything else. And at this point, my plan is to just explore the island and continue vlogging with the rest of my day. So I go to Oasis Lagoon, I go to Chill Island, I was at Skipper Grill, and hanging out by Harbor Beach. Now, I was talking with some Russian-speaking people in Chill Island, and we were sitting there talking for well over an hour. At this point, it's about 3:17 when we decide to part ways. Now, I left Thrill Water Park a little after 1. So then I'm just moseying along Chill Island and just taking some picture and video, getting some B-roll footage and things like this. And at this point, it's about 3:40. Now, I decide, like, hey, I still got time because we were supposed to be back on the ship by 5 o'clock. So I said to myself, hey, let me go into the water park and let me get some more rides. I was like, I got time. And at this point, a lot of people have left, so it's a lot easier to cycle through the rides. So I go in, I go down one ride, and I was like, man, this was pretty fun. So what I decided to do was, I was like, oh, my other GoPro still has battery life. What I'll do is, let me take this one out of the locker and let me put that battery in the one that's dead. So at this point, back at the locker, there happened to be one of the workers that was working there, and she was cleaning out lockers and stuff like this because obviously a lot of people were leaving. So I jokingly look over to her and ask her, I say, do people leave stuff here? And she was like, yeah, a lot. So, and I laughed with her because I'm like, that sounds crazy. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, who's gonna leave some stuff here? So as I'm going to look for my GoPro, I'm like, where's my GoPro? I've got the main shooter, but where's the water one? I was like, oh my God. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, you won't believe this. And I was like, I think I left my GoPro here. So at this point, I look in the locker. Obviously, it's not in there because I use the same locker. So when locker 373 for context, I used the same locker that I used earlier, and because no one used it and the code was still the same, so I didn't have to reprogram it. So I'm looking and I was like, wait a minute, where? I remember, okay, I put it on top. I look up top, it's not there. So I asked her like, hey, did you see a GoPro? She's like, oh, I did see something on the top about 20 minutes ago. I saw a GoPro on the top of the locker. And I just said to myself, really? That's so crazy. Because to think about that, think about this. the GoPro had sat there for well over an hour before someone took it. So I was just like, oh, so I'm asking her like, hey, did you turn it in, or did anyone turn it into lost and found here? She was like, no, I couldn't take it, so because they didn't know if someone's gonna come back, blah, blah, blah. So she said, go check the lost and found on the pier. So I go there, check the lost and found, nothing there. So then I come back to the locker and I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, no one saw it or turned it in here? She's like, no, everything gets turned in the lost and found on the pier. So then at this point, lots of people are getting back on the ship. So I'm like, okay, maybe someone's gonna turn it in now amongst all these people that are here. So I was like, okay, let me come back and check again at the pier. So he's like, oh, no, I don't see it. So he radios the people on the island. They're like, no one saw it in Thrill Water Park. So then he creates a report, like he takes a picture of my SeaPass card and he's like, yeah, there's cameras all over Coco Cay. Basically what the guy on the pier said, there's about a 95% chance I'm gonna get my GoPro back, which was reassuring because, hey, Royal Caribbean is known for having cameras everywhere. And I remember seeing a camera in the locker room, like right next to my locker. So whoever has my GoPro, surely enough, they'll know who took it. And one thing about Thrill Water Park, you have to scan in. So it's not like I lost my GoPro in Chill Island, Harbor Beach, or just randomly anywhere on the island that's open to the public. I know exactly where I lost it, around what time, and the exact location. So I tell him this and I was like, I was just like, panicking at this point. So he said, they'll do a sweep and they'll bring everything back and then they'll bring it onto the ship and then maybe it'll turn up then. So at this point, I come back onto the ship and I go to guest services because I'm like, hey, maybe someone brought it back on the ship. Now, for more context, I'm on Wonder in the Seas. Also at Coco Cay that day was Symphony of the Seas. So imagine that there's over 12,000 people potentially on the island that day. So in my mind, I'm just like, okay, there are only so many people that went in Thrill Water Park because it's not free to the public. You have to pay for that excursion. So there's cameras here. You know who scanned in. If you just kind of reverse engineer things, it should be pretty easy to find. Now, my worry was this. We're doing a 4-day sailing. That was day 2. So we only had 2 days to resolve it for the passengers that are on Wonder. Symphony was doing a 7-night sailing and they had another port stop and a few more sea days. So I was like, okay, at least if we can nail it down, I can still somewhat get this back. So again, I go onto the ship, I go to guest services, and all this stuff, like I just mentioned, is going through my mind. So I go there and this is where things start to take a turn for the worse. I talked to Anna from Mexico in guest services. This girl was no help at all. So I go there and I tell her somewhat the situation and I'm trying to explain to her like what's going on. Now, she is not a help at all. She's kind of like talking over me and not listening, basically. And I know exactly how they can find this GoPro. And I'm trying to explain this to her and she's just not listening. She's like, oh, okay. And at this point, the gangway is not up yet. People are still coming up to the ship. So she says, hey, like come back around 7 o'clock. That's when we should have everything else. And you can, we'll create an incident report then. So, okay, I wait. So I go back, shower, eat, come back at 7 o'clock, shortly after 7. And I'm in guest services and I'm just thinking to myself, please don't let me get that girl again, Anna from Mexico, because I'm just like she was not a help. She didn't seem like she cared at all. And I'm just like, oh, so I'm waiting in the line to guest services. And guess who I get? Anna from Mexico. And I'm just like, oh, so I go up to her and I'm just like, I was like, did you find anything? So then she goes back, she checks, nothing. So at this point, and what she told me earlier when I first went to guest services was, the way it's gonna work is they'll do the report, they'll fill out everything, get all the information, and then if someone turns it in, I can get it back. Now there's a website, it's called chargerback.com. If you lose an item on a ship and you weren't able to get it when you got off, or maybe you just forgot once you got off the ship. Go to chargerback.com. I think you put in like the description or whatever, and it'll show pictures, and you can claim it, but you got to pay for the shipping for them to send it back to you. So she was telling me this, like, if it doesn't turn up, basically that's it. That's all I can do, and I'm screwed basically. So go, if it doesn't show up in chargerback.com, then I'm out of a GoPro. And that was her answer to me. And I kept trying to emphasize to her over and over that this is easy to do. All you have to do is ask security at CocoCay to look at the footage. You know who's coming in and out of through a water park. It's not like it's in any of the public open spaces where there are tons of people. And, you know, if I just, let's just say the GoPro just fell out of my backpack and I don't know where it fell, that's going to be like almost a needle in a haystack. And I would understand if that were the case. And I'm just like really searching for like the shining light. I will understand if that were the case. But in this case, I know exactly where I left it. I know exactly where I was. I know that this place, only certain people can get in. You have to scan to get in, so you know who went in and out. You know who booked through a water park. That should be very easy to reverse engineer. And I'm trying to explain this to her. She's not listening. She's like, oh no. So she gives me the incident report. I fill out the incident report. And at this point, I just told her, I was like, I know you don't care. It's, you know, you don't care. It's, you know, blah blah blah. And she's like, oh, I'm doing my job. This is what she said. I'm filling out the report. But the report is not enough because it's not her GoPro. Of course she doesn't care like I care. It's my GoPro. Now, for everyone that's watching, ask any of your favorite content creators, travel vloggers, or just, travel vloggers, because they're on the go a lot. Ask them this question, because I already know the answer. What would they do if they were on a trip, recorded footage, and then lost their camera with the memory card? That's the key, with the memory card. Because in my mind, I'm like, dude, I don't care if I lose a GoPro. That's fine. I just need the memory card. Please just give me the memory card. You can, if you want to keep the GoPro, go right ahead. I can replace it, but I can't replace the information that's on the memory card. What's on that memory card was obviously the footage from CocoCay from this day. There's snorkeling with sea turtles and stingrays and other types of fish from St. Croix, from St. Thomas. There's the footage from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and I think maybe some other stuff. So I can't recreate those memories in those events. I could, let's say, book the same ship, same itinerary, but it's not going to be the same trying to recreate these things because these were things that I experienced in the moment and it's genuine. I can't recreate that as much as I can, you know, book another cruise with the same itinerary, do the same exact things. It's not going to be the exact same. For any content creator, the content is more valuable than the camera because you don't know how much money you could potentially make from that content that you have and, you know, everything else. So, and this was what I was telling Anna. I was like, I don't care about the GoPro. I was like, yeah, cool, GoPro, but I need that memory card. So I'm explaining to her, and I'm explaining to her that it was on top of the locker. I know what time this, blah, blah, blah. So then it dawned on me that sometimes you have to be a Karen because I had to, and I wasn't yelling at her. I wasn't raising my voice or anything like this. She just had a really like bitchy attitude. And it's almost like, you know how in those like thriller or suspense movie, like murder mystery type of movies, you know, you report to the cops and, you know, you kind of know a little bit of information about like what's going on and all the details that happen. But there's that one cop who's in charge of the case, but they want to throw you off the lead. They don't want to, you know, have you working with anyone. They just want to kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, just do this and then blah, 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 just to hush you up, just to keep you off the case because they know something that you don't and they're trying to hide stuff. That's what it seemed like with her. And I'm not implying that she was in on this, but I'm just saying the way she was trying to brush me off was as if like, oh, okay, I don't want you to get your GoPro back, because that's why I told her, I was like, it seems like you don't even care. And I was like, I understand, you don't care. It's not your GoPro. She was just trying to do the bare minimum. I'm just gonna do the incident report, blah, blah, blah. And this is what I hate about people that are in customer service or people just in general that have a title basically a gatekeeper. Anyone who's in the position of being a gatekeeper, you won't allow anyone to get past you because, hey, you're not the final say, but you're the first step to getting to the next step. And that's what she was. She was that first step so I can elevate this and get to the next step. But she was trying to make it difficult from the very beginning. So the second time when I went, I was telling her, I was like, I know exactly how you can find this GoPro in less than 24 hours. And I was explaining to her, I know exactly what time, I know exactly where. Thrill Water Park, like I said earlier, you know who's coming in and out. There's only so many people. I was like, I can get this resolved. And my thing was, and I was telling her that I want to get this resolved before both ships come back to Miami. So at this point, she's like, okay, let me talk to my supervisor. So then she just leaves. And out comes the head of security, and then there's another security guy. And they ended up taking me behind guest services into some security office. Then they turn on the freaking body cams, and they're basically getting a report from me. They're asking me questions, and I'm giving them all the details. And I was telling them, like, with the girl, like, she wasn't helpful. I was just like, I know exactly how you can find this. You know, like, this is like a slam dunk case. It's almost like with law, you see it in movies, like, oh, this is a slam dunk case. This is open and shut, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty easy. I know exactly where. I know exactly round about what time. And there was literally a camera right there. Because they were saying that, oh, maybe there's a blind spot, but I was like, no, there's no blind spot. I literally saw the camera right next to the locker. So you can find out who did this. You just got to get in contact with the security Coco K. They'll relay it to you. They can look at this person and just basically backtrack to when this person scanned in, see who it was who scanned in, or use the facial recognition, and boom. But my hope was whoever did take it, I was hoping that please let them be on Wonder of the Seas and not Symphony, because if they're on Symphony, then of course I'm gonna have to pay to get it shipped back, and then there's just a little bit more logistics involved. So after I do the report with the security guys, he's like, okay, give me about 24 hours. I will get back to you. He'll send me a message on the phone in the room here. Now, the next day, we're at Nassau, Bahamas. Now, at this point, I'm just like, okay, good. We got someone who seems to be a little bit more hard charging about this. Like, at least it seems like we're gonna go somewhere with this. So, get off the ship in Nassau. Don't really have much planned. Easy day, just shooting. Went to Atlantis, checked out Straw Market and the port, you know, general stuff. So I'm getting back onto the ship, and it's so ironic because there were many gangway entrances to go on. I got in at the very back in the aft, and who happened to be there? The head of security guy. And I was like, wow, this must have meant to be. I was like, this is kind of weird. I just happened to come in this gangway and you just happened to be here. So I didn't even see him, to be honest, but he came up to me and he's like, hey, did you get it? I was like, get what? He's like, yeah, we found your GoPro. I was like, and I'm doing a little happy dance in the gangway. I'm like, oh snap. I'm like, oh. So, but still I have to go there and identify it and make sure that it is mine, because who knows, maybe someone else lost a GoPro, you know. Now, again, like I told you, like I had the GoPro and I had the mouthpiece attachment attached to it. So I immediately go up to guest service. That was the first thing I was doing, which actually I was gonna go up and eat, but then I was like, nope, this is top of the list. I gotta go investigate this. So go to guest services, and I talked to the security person. They go back, they bring out a GoPro, and I'm like, okay, it's a GoPro Hero 12, like mine. I was like, there's no mouthpiece attachment. I was like, okay, this is weird. Now, again, remember, like I said, my GoPro was dead. So I pressed the power button just to see. I was like, okay, if this turns on, it's not mine, because hey, you know, my battery was dead. So I press the power button, it's powering on. I'm like, oh, this ain't my GoPro. I was like, mine was dead, bone dead. So I was like, okay, let me look at the memory card, because I know what the memory card looks like and what brand it is. So I open the side and I look, I'm like, okay, that looks like my memory card, but then now again, the GoPro is powered on. So I go through the footage that's on there, and I see it's like some gangway footage, and I see it's some like security office footage. I'm like, okay, that's not me. And then I get to some white couple, and I'm like, that's not me. And I can see it just basically has like a thumbnail of like what was recorded, whether it was picture or video. And I'm going through and I'm like, okay, I see them at CocoK, and I'm like, yeah, I was like, and I look at the security lady, I'm like, yeah, this isn't my GoPro. I was like, yeah, this is like some white couple here. But then I just decided to keep scrolling. And sure enough, my face pops up. I'm like, oh, okay, this is my GoPro. Because I'm like, there's no way my face, and as many times as I kept scrolling and seeing my face, is going to be on someone else's GoPro. So I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I was like, this is it. I was like, thank you. So at this point, I signed off on the thing, and then I am just kind of like, oh, just taking a deep breath, like taking it in, like, thank you. I have my GoPro back. Now, at this point, I go, and this is a mistake I made. I went back down to the security to tell the guy, like, yeah, this was mine. Thank you very much, blah, blah, blah. Now, some of that security footage I didn't look through because they were like short videos, like 10 seconds, 6 seconds, like real short clips and stuff like this. So I decided, I was like, no, I'm not gonna, let me just keep scrolling. I did watch some of the footage from the white couple. Like there was, you'll see, I'll put a video up. There was one of them, literally you'll see one of the videos is of them at the locker, and you can see the locker number. I think it's like 377. You'll see the locker number if you pay close attention to the video. You can see 377 right there. And my locker was 373. So, yep, they were right there. And then the next video you see of them walking down the pier in CocoK.
Where are we, baby?
Bahamas.
Yeah.
Bahamas.
Yeah, baby. Look at that.
And yep, they look like they're vloggers. They're like, oh, doing all the stuff. Then I scroll again, and then I looked at this footage, and they took a selfie in Central Park. They have video in their stateroom on the bed. And I'm just like, were they just trying to start a vlogging career on my GoPro? I'm like, this is freaking hilarious. So I was thinking to myself, because when she handed me the GoPro, and I'm like, it's actually my GoPro, I was thinking to myself, why would anyone take the mouthpiece attachment? One is disgusting because this was in my mouth. I put this thing in my mouth and I bite down on it, and it's like saliva and germs, whatever. Who would want that? Why would they not return it with the mouthpiece? But if you look closely in this video here, you could actually see the guy has it in his hand while he's on the bed. You can see it's in his hand. So I wonder, I'm like, why didn't he turn it in? Because I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, maybe they just turned it in. And that's what I thought before I looked at all the footage. But then when I looked at the footage, I was like, yeah, what they were doing in the footage on the GoPro doesn't look like they had any intention on returning it, because they were taking selfies, they were doing videos, like, oh, all the stuff. You saw it. It didn't look like they had any intention of returning that GoPro. So I'm just like, I'm trying to like wrap my head around this. Now let's go back to the part where I go back down to security to tell the head of security guy that I found it. Oh. So he's like, oh, okay, good. And I was telling him that, I was like, yeah, it's like a white couple. And I was like, I don't even know, blah, blah, blah. That was the mistake I made. Because at this point, like, he looked at the footage, he's like, oh, this footage from the gangway. Because if you didn't know, guys, you can't record in the gangway. They don't allow it. So he made me delete those videos instantly, like on the spot. He's like, yeah, I have to, let me see you delete. So I'm just deleting some of the videos, okay, boom, boom. I deleted one picture of the couple, but most of the stuff I still have, as you saw. But then there's another video from the security that I was still in there. So then that's where my brain got to working. Because I was thinking, if they turned in the GoPro, like I said earlier, surely they should have turned in the mouthpiece, because that's not valuable to them. It'd be different if they turned in the GoPro with the mouthpiece attachment, but maybe kept the memory card. Or turned in the memory card, but kept the GoPro. You know, it's almost like you find a wallet and then you just return the wallet with no cash. And at that point, it's like, yeah, I took an L on the cash I lost, but at least I got my driver's license and my credit cards. I don't have to go through the DMV process, and then I don't have to worry about now canceling a bunch of credit cards and reordering them and having to do all the stuff, because you know how you have certain card numbers linked and blah, blah, blah. I would be happy in that scenario too. Like, let's say I did have $1,000 in my wallet and I lost it, but then I got it back later. with the minus $1,000. I'd be so happy that I got my freaking wallet back. Like the $1,000, yeah, it's an L, but I don't have to worry about going through the DMV and everything that anyone keeps in their wallet and having to worry about replacing that. So again, like I'm thinking to myself, like, man, what happened? Why is the mouthpiece attachment not here? In the GoPro, and this is another mistake I made. Well, with the mistake where I had to delete the footage, I should have looked at the footage before I went down there and he made me delete the stuff, so I could at least see what was there. In retrospect, maybe there was some stuff on there that they didn't want me to see, because I could tell in some of the footage that I did see, they were like the security people were playing with the GoPro. So they obviously didn't know how to operate it. So they were pressing the record button on accident and then obviously turning it off. And that's what a lot of the footage was. And maybe there was just some stuff in there that he didn't want me to see. One thing he told me before I went back upstairs and, you know, went about my day was, he's like, oh yeah, if you see them, you know, don't bother them. Don't, you know, just leave it alone, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay. Now, here's a funny thing too. I heard someone got banned from Royal Caribbean for stealing door magnets off of a door on a cruise ship. Now, mind you, Royal Caribbean was willing to hunt someone down for a door magnet and ban them. Surely enough, my $400 and something investment in the GoPro, the mouthpiece attachment, and the memory card is worthy enough of them doing some investigating. Oh, here's another piece of context I left out with the girl Anna from Mexico and Guest Services. She told me that, oh, it's going to be hard to, and this, she said this the first time and then emphasized it again the second time, that the security people in Coco Cay, they're not affiliated with Royal Caribbean. It's a different company. It's not Royal Caribbean. So she said, oh, I don't know if we can have them get this footage because it's a totally different country or company. They don't have control, like Royal Caribbean doesn't have control over them and they can't make them do anything, or they can't blah, blah, blah. She was making it seem like, oh, you know, like we're Walmart and this is Target and you know, we're not cordial, so we can't really get each other, da, da, da. She made it seem like, oh, it's going to be really hard because, yeah, this company. But in my mind, I'm saying to myself, why would you even have this type of relationship and then they're doing security for you and they have all this CCTV footage, but you can't access it or have them access it, or you guys get what I'm saying? And she emphasized this because I'm just like, that makes no sense at all. Absolutely no sense for you to have security in Coco Cay, but then you guys aren't really working together because, hey, it's a different company. Sorry, I left that part of the story out earlier. And that's one of the other reasons why I was getting frustrated with her. And I had to keep emphasizing, I'm like, this is so easy. You can contact the people there. It's not like the people in the island of Coco Cay are going anywhere. And by the way, if you didn't know, there are people that live there on the island of Coco Cay. If you ever have a good vantage point, you can see the dormitories where everyone stays. So there's people there 24 hours a day. So back to, fast forward back to me finding a GoPro. I'm back up in my room. So one thing with the GoPro that I'm recording on right now, I make sure I set up the date, time, and the time zone. So when I edit videos, like I can have a certain time frame of when basically the metadata is correct as far as the date, time, and things like this. On this other GoPro, the one that I found, you know, here it is right here. On this one, I don't update the time, the time zone, and the date on this one, because remember how I said the first video was of them at the locker in Coco Cay. Second video was them walking down the pier, and then the rest of the videos was them on the ship, which meant they didn't turn it into security there. They didn't turn it in when they got onto the ship. Now, in those videos, if you pay close attention, you'll see they're wearing the same clothes when they're in their room. Those are the same clothes they were wearing at the locker in Coco Cay, or walking on the pier in Coco Cay. So that was that day. But what I did was, I made a mental note of the date and time that was on the metadata for that day that they recorded at Coco Cay. But that one piece of security footage that I have left, I looked at the metadata on that, and that was the day after, which meant that video that I have, the one video that I have of the security, that's the first video of security after the last video of the couple. So that means that security found them. These people did not turn this GoPro in. I highly doubt they turned this GoPro in. Now, that's the twist and turn and suspense of it all. What do you think? Do you think the couple turned the GoPro in? Or do you think security found them, came knocking on their door and said, hey, you need to give up this GoPro or else? So my thoughts is security went to their door, found them out and said, hey, give up this GoPro or else. That was kind of interesting because I was saying to myself like, that's probably why the mouthpiece attachment isn't here, because one, as you saw, it wasn't attached to the camera. It was in the guy's hand. And I'm sure when security came knocking at the door and said like, hey, we know you have a GoPro, we need to search your room. And oh, by the way, when he called me back when I went to get services, and the girl Anna was like, oh, let me get my supervisor. And the head security came and they brought me back. They were like, are you willing to do a room search? I was like, yeah, you can search my room. I was like, I have nothing to hide. I fully complied. I was like, dude, I'm just trying to get my GoPro back, especially before both of the ships return, because I don't like my chances once the ships dock back in Miami and everyone's off the ship. I don't like my chances of getting my GoPro back in that type of situation. And obviously, if I didn't escalate it like this, and if I would have let everything work out the way Anna from Mexico at Guest Services wanted to play out, I wouldn't have my GoPro, because as you saw from the footage, it didn't look like those people had plans on returning my GoPro. What do you think? Do you think, based on what you saw, the footage you saw of them, you think they were going to give me my GoPro back? Do you really think? They were just like, oh, let's just shoot and just see how GoPro works, and then maybe we'll buy one when we get back home. No, they had every intention on keeping the GoPro, in my opinion. But of course, you let me know yours in the comments. At this point, I'm just like, hey, in my mind, I'm saying to myself, because I'm like, I've come to the conclusion that security found them, and I tell them like, hey, yeah, I don't have the attachment. Now the security guard, when she first gave this to me, I told her about the mouthpiece attachment. She said, okay, we'll look into it and then I'll get back with you. Give me like 24 hours or whatever. So today, the last day of the cruise, I went down to Guest Services, and guess who was there at Guest Services? Anna from Mexico. But she wasn't working at the computer behind the desk. She was, if you've ever been to Guest Services, there'll be one person there at the stanchions and they're asking you like, hey, is there something I can help you with real quick to like expedite the line? But she was that person. So she wasn't like quite there when I walked up, but she was walking up as I was walking through the thing. And it's so funny, she did not make eye contact with me. She didn't even acknowledge me. She knew I was walking through this. She didn't acknowledge me at all. And I'm just like, yep, I'm gonna mention you in the survey. For sure, I'm mentioning you in the survey. But let's rewind. So last night, I'm Diamond, by the way, in the Crown and Anchor Society. And of course, as you know, with Diamond, you get 4 free drinks per day. So at the end of the day, like what a lot of people that are Diamond Plus Pinnacle, what they'll do is, if they don't use all of their vouchers throughout the day, they'll go and like get a Truly's, you know, or Red Bull, or maybe water, or even juice or soda, and just bring the cans back to their room so they can have something to drink throughout the rest of their voyage. And that makes total sense. So I was in my room, I was like, oh, I have 2 vouchers left. So I go down, I'm like, I just gotta find a bar, let me get like 2 Red Bulls. So a lot of the bars are closing. At this point, it's after 1 a.m. And I'm in the promenade. And I walk into the English style pub. I don't even know the name of it. And I go there, get some Red Bulls. So I get my Red Bulls and I'm walking out. And guess what I see? I'm walking out and I'm like, I do a double take and I'm like, I stop. I turn around, walk back to the bar, and I start to exit the pub again. And I'm like, did I just see what I thought I saw? And I look again, I'm like, that's the couple that took my camera. They're sitting right there in the pub. Now, at this point, in the comments, please let me know, what would you do at this point? You know who took your camera report, but yes, you do have it back, right? It's back in your possession and everything's hunky-dory. You guys now get to see the footage from Coco Cay. You get to see me swimming with sea turtles in St. Croix and doing fun stuff in St. Thomas, jumping from cliffs in Puerto Rico, and having fun in Dominican Republic. Now you get to see all this footage because if it wasn't for that, no, you wouldn't get to see the footage. And I would have some little wonky vlogs to post. But what would you do? Would you confront the couple? Now, me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna honor the head of security's wishes, because he said, hey, if you see him, don't, you know, he was cool about it. He said, yeah, if you see him, just leave him, just don't worry. I told him, yeah, I'm cool. I got what I need back. I'm good. But I'm curious about you guys. Would you confront them? Although, I mean, ignore the words of the security guard. Would you give them a piece of your mind? Now, at this point, I've come to the conclusion that they were going to keep my camera. And I've come to the conclusion that, yeah, they were probably forced to give this camera back. So, again, what would you do? I'm curious in the comments below. But that is the story. But that's the curious case of what happened to my GoPro. A very wild string of events that lasted 2 days. I honestly wanted to go up to him and ask him, like, hey, do you have the mouthpiece attachment? I'm gonna be honest, like, I was really tempted to ask them, like, hey, do you at least have the mouthpiece attachment? This is the mouthpiece attachment right here. See, I bite down on it right there. And the price of it is actually $25 right now. So would you ask them, like, hey, do you still have it? Like, you know, it's $25. I mean, who wants to just waste another $25? I don't. But let me know in the comments below. I tried to make that story short, but it's a long, complicated story with a lot of twists and turns and a lot of decisions that I had to make. Because if I would have just went along with Anna's plan, I probably wouldn't have a GoPro. If I would have confronted them and then maybe things go left, maybe I get banned from Royal Caribbean for fighting or something. Because, hey, if something did go awry, the security guy remembers, he specifically told me, like, hey, if you see him, don't. And I gave him my word, like, oh, I'm good. Then, you know, turns up, I'm throwing fists with the dude or something. Yeah, that would be a bad outcome. I hope you enjoy the footage from Thrill Water Park, because it should be out. I'll see you guys in the next one.